Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
If you'll
Please join us for praise and worship.
Awake, O Israel, put off thy slumber, and the truth shall set you free. For out of Zion comes thy deliverer in the year of Jubilee. Awake, O Israel, put off thy slumber, and the truth shall set you free. For out of Zion comes thy deliverer in the year of Jubilee. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, praise Yahweh. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. For in the furnace of much affliction I have chosen thee, behold. And so for iron I'll give thee silver, and for brass I'll give thee gold. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, praise Yahweh. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. Thou art my chosen, for I have sought thee. Thou art graven on my hand, and I will gather all those I've scattered. They shall come back to their land. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, praise Yahweh. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. Awake, O Israel, put off thy slumber, and the truth shall set you free. For out of Zion comes thy deliverer in the year of Jubilee. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, praise Yahweh. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah.
There shall be a highway in the desert for the redeemed of Yahweh, and from the mouth of Yahweh of hosts shall go forth the fiery sword, and all the world will sing Yeshua, and all the world will sing salvation, and all the world will sing Yeshua, and all the world will sing He is King. There shall be a fountain in the city to cleanse all the people from sin, and with the tree of life in the midst of her, for the healing of the nations, and all the world will sing Yeshua, and all the world will sing salvation, and all the world will sing Yeshua, and all the world will sing He is King. There shall be a sign in the heavens, and all the land for Him. And when they look upon the one who was pierced, coming back to Jerusalem, and all the world will sing Yeshua, and all the world will sing salvation, and all the world will sing salvation, and all the world will sing He is King, and all the world will sing Yeshua, and all the world will sing salvation, and all the world will sing Yeshua, and all the world will sing He is King, and all the world will sing He is King, and all the world will sing He is King. Shalom, shalom,
Jerusalem, peace be to you. When Messiah comes to take us home, may His praise be found in you. Pray for peace, Jerusalem, city of our Yah, where salvation was poured out for you. The atoning of Yahweh. Once your streets were filled with joy, branches raised up high, shouting, blessed be the Holy One. Messiah has come. Oh, my brothers, hear these words. May they pierce your soul. Turn again to worship Adonai. Mashiach, you will know. Shalom, shalom, Jerusalem. Peace be to you. When Messiah comes to take us home, may his praise be found in you. Shalom, shalom, Jerusalem. Peace be to you. When Messiah comes to take us home, may his praise be found in you. May his praise be found in you.
Get your shofars ready.
Oh, the trumpet in
Zion, Zion, sound the alarm on my holy mountain. Oh, the trumpet in Zion, Zion, sound the alarm.
Rush on the city,
They run on the walls. Great is the army that carries out his word. They rush on the city, they run on the walls. Great is the army that carries out his word. Yahweh utters his voice before his army. Yahweh utters his voice before his army. For the trumpet is Zion, Zion, sound the alarm on my holy mountain. For the trumpet is Zion, Zion, sound the alarm.
rush on the city, they run on the walls.
Great is the army that carries out his word. They rush on the city, they run on the walls. Great is the army that carries out his word. Yahweh utters his voice
Listen.
before his army.
Can you hear him?
Yahweh utters his voice before his army. For the trumpet in Zion, Zion, sound the alarm on my holy mountain. For the trumpet in Zion, Zion, sound the alarm. For the trumpet in Zion, Zion, sound the alarm on my holy mountain. For the trumpet in Zion, Zion, sound the alarm. For the trumpet in Zion, Zion, sound the alarm on my holy mountain. For the trumpet in Zion, Zion, sound the alarm. Sound the alarm. Sound the alarm.
Yehovah, we just come before you. We thank you for the Sabbath. We thank you for this time we have that's set apart just to worship you and to dive into your word and to just find the meat of your word, Father, and to grow stronger in who you are so we grow stronger in who we are in you. And so we just thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this privilege. And we thank you for opening up our hearts and our eyes and our ears to receive what you have for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Join us for the Beis Shamru.
Shamru b'nei Israel, HaShabbat, Lasod et HaShabbat, Lador et Amari Olam. V'shamru b'nei Israel, HaShabbat, Lasod et HaShabbat, Lador et Amari Olam. B'nei
you'll join us for the Matogu. You may be seated. We're not doing
the Barcoat service. Our goal is to fulfill our call to guard the commandments of Torah and to have the testimony that Messiah Yehoshua is the Redeemer of Israel. May his great name grow exalted and sanctified. I'm just going to read over here. In the world that he created as he willed, may he give reign to his kingship in your lifetimes and in your days and in the lifetimes of the entire family of Israel, swiftly and soon.
Amen.
May his great name be blessed forever and ever. May his great name be blessed forever and ever. Blessed, praised, glorified, exalted, extolled, mighty, upraised, and lauded be the name of the Holy One. Blessed is he.
Blessed is he.
Beyond any blessing and song, praise and consolation that are uttered in the world. Now, amen.
Amen.
So now respond. Upon Israel, upon the teachers, their disciples, and all of their disciples, and upon those who engage in the study of Torah, who are here or anywhere else, may they and you have abundant peace, grace, kindness, and mercy, long life, ample nourishment, and salvation before their Father who is in heaven and on earth. Amen.
Amen.
May there be abundant peace from heaven and good life upon us and upon all Israel. Amen. He who makes peace in his heights, may he, in his compassion, make peace upon us all and upon all Israel. Amen. Right. This is going to be Tehillim or Psalms 20. Yahavah does answer you in the day of your distress. The name of Elohim of Yaakov does set you on high. He does send you help from the set-apart place and does uphold you from Zion. He does remember all your offerings and does accept your ascending offering. Salah. He does give you according to your heart and fulfills all your plans. We sing of your deliverance, and in the name of our Elohim we set up a banner. Now I know that Yahavah shall save his anointed. He answers him from his set-apart heavens with the saving might of his right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we remember the name of Yahavah our Elohim. They have bowed down and fallen, but we have given rise and are established. Save Yahavah. Let the sovereign answer us in the day we call. The Barku. Bless Yahavah, the Blessed One. Blessed is Yahavah, the Blessed One, for all eternity. Baruch et Yahavah Hambarach, Baruch Yahavah Hambarach Leolam Vayed. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahavah your Elohim. In it you shall not do any work. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the Sabbath day. And that is why Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Speak also unto the children of Israel, saying, Above all my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Yahweh, who sanctifies you. If you do turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my set-apart day, and shall call the Sabbath a delight, the set-apart day of Yahweh esteemed, and shall esteem it, not doing your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in Yahweh, and I shall cause you to ride on the heights of the earth, and feed you with the inheritance of Yaakov your father, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken. And that is Isaiah 58:13 and 14. And now the blessing over the children. We need some fellas, please. 4 of y'all. 1, 2, 3. There we go. That's all of our children. Are we missing one? Where's? Okay, all right. Elohim of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, we pray for these children to know that the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. Children, heed the discipline of your father, and do not forsake the Torah of your mother, for they are a fair wreath on your heads and chains about your neck. Children, obey your parents and our Master Yeshua, for this is right, and the first commandment with promise is this: honor your father and your mother, that it may go beautifully for you, and your life may be prolonged on the earth. And parents, do not provoke your children, but train them up in the discipline and doctrine of our Master Yeshua. For there is no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. Remember, all the paths of Yahweh are mercy and truth, to them that seek his covenant and his testimonies. Let the words of your mouth and the meditation of your hearts be pleasing before Yahweh, your helper and redeemer. The loving commitment of Yahweh is from everlasting to everlasting upon those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children. May you always crave the word as being the pure spiritual milk by which you are nourished up to life. For whatever is true, whatever is honest, whatever is just, whatever is of good report, if there is any uprightness and if there is any praise, think on these things. Finally, the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all knowledge, will keep your hearts and your minds through Yeshua Messiah. Amen. No, I know, but it's red. All right, if we'd please stand for the Messiah prayer. Blessed are you, Yahweh, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yehoshua. He walked among us filled with your Spirit, the only one who ever fulfilled your Torah perfectly. He healed the sick and raised the dead. The multitudes of our people sought his touch. He taught as no other man taught, bringing forth the treasures of the Torah with authority. How the children sought him, the lepers he touched and made clean. How the despised and the outcast found love and release from their sin. How the hypocrites feared him whose words uncovered their sin. Despised and rejected, acquainted with grief, he bore the sins of Israel. All of us like sheep went astray, turned every one to his own way. Our iniquities were laid upon our king. The sins of this world became his burden to bear. He rose from the dead and opened the way to life everlasting. Praise be to his name. We are in him. His spirit empowers. New life is ours with joy and peace. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu ederech haYeshua HaMashiach Yehoshua. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yehoshua. Amen. The blessing of the Shema. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uberek kosek osei shalom uberei ra. Blessed are you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, who forms light and creates darkness, makes peace and creates evil. And that is Yeshayahu or Isaiah 45:7. And the Shema. And that is going to be Deuteronomy 6:4. Shema Yisrael, Yahovah Eloheinu, Yahovah Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkuto, Leolam Vayed. Hear, O Israel, Yahovah Eloheinu, Yahovah is one. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity. Amen. And the Vahavtah. Vahavtah et Yahovah Elohecha, B'kol levavka, uvkol nashtika, uvkol meodeka. Vahayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anuki matzavaka hayom al levaveka. Vishinantam levaneka, vididvartam bam vishiftika, bevteka, uvlektaka vaderik, uvshakbaka, uvkomeka, ushartam leo al yadeka, Vahayu letotefot bain aneka, uftatam al mezuzot beteka uvisha reka. And you shall love Yahovah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire, and when you arise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and upon your gates. Vahavtah l'reaka kamoka, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Amen. The Torah service.
Shabbat Shalom. All right. There's to be one Torah service. There's to be one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. That's Bamidbar or Numbers 15, 16. So if you join me for the Ein Kamoka. Ein Kamoka Elohim Yehovah Ve'ein Kemaseka Malkuka Malkuka Olamim Umemshaltika Ve'kol Dor V'dor Yehovah Melech Yehovah Malach Yehovah Yimlo Le'olam Vayed Yehovah Osei Omitain Yehovah Yevarech Elohim Shalom. There are none like you among their gods, Yehovah, and there is nothing like your works. Your kingdom is a kingdom throughout all generations, and your dominion is forever. Yehovah reigns, Yehovah has reigned, Yehovah will reign forever and ever. Yehovah will give strength to his people, Yehovah will bless his people with peace. Vayehi. Vayehi v'so ha'aron ve'omer Moshe Kuma Yehovah ve'afusu oiveka ve'anusu mesaneka mepaneka ki mitzayon tezei Torah Ki mitzayon tezei Torah Udavar Yehovah me'Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael Bikaku Yeshuato. When the ark would travel, Moshe would say, Arise, Yehovah, and let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee from you. For the Torah will go forth from Zion, and the word of Yehovah from Jerusalem. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Israel in his holiness. May the Father of compassion have mercy on the nation that is born by him, and may he remember the covenant of the spiritually mighty. May he rescue our souls from the bad times and upbraid the evil inclination to leave those born by him. Graciously make us an eternal remnant and fulfill our request in good measure for salvation and mercy. May he help, shield, and save all who take refuge in him. Now let us respond.
Amen.
All of you who ascribe greatness to our Elohim and get honor to the Torah, arise, Bill and Avraham, an Israelite, and come to the bema to read from the Torah. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Israel in his holiness. Baruch et Yehovah Hamvarach.
Baruch Yehovah Barak Le'olam Hayed.
Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bakar menu mikol halamim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Yehovah.
Notein HaTorah.
Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah.
The reading parsha this morning will be from Leviticus, Vayikra, 8 verses 1 through 34, and the Maftir verses 35 through 36. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Take Aaron and his sons with him in the garments and the anointing oil and the bowl of the sin offering and the 2 rams and the basket of unleavened bread, and assemble all the congregation at the door of the tent of appointment. And Moshe did as Yahweh commanded him, and the congregation was assembled at the door of the tent of appointment. And Moshe said to the congregation, This is the word Yahweh commanded to be done. So Moshe brought Aaron and his sons and washed them with water, and put the long shirt on him, and girded him with the girdle, and dressed him in the robe, and put the shoulder garments on him, and girded him with the embroidered band of the shoulder garments, and with it tied the shoulder garment on him, and put the breastplate on him, and put the Urim and the Thummim in the breastplate, and put the turban on his head, and on the turban, on its front, he put the golden plate, the set-apart sign of dedication, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And Moshe took the anointing oil, and anointed the dwelling place and all that was in it, and set them apart. And he sprinkled some of it on the slaughter place 7 times, and anointed the slaughter place and all its utensils, and the basin and its base, to set them apart. And he poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head, and anointed him to set him apart. And Moshe brought the sons of Aaron, and put long shirts on them, and girded them with girdles, and put turbans on them, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And he brought the bull for the sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the bull for the sin offering, and it was slain. And Moshe took the blood, and put some of it on the horns of the slaughter place, all around with his finger, and cleansed the slaughter place. And he poured the blood at the base of the slaughter place, and set it apart, to make atonement for it. And he took all the fat that was on the entrails, and the appendage on the liver, and the 2 kidneys with their fat, and Moshe burned them on the slaughter place. And the bull and its skin and its flesh and its dung he burned with fire outside the camp, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And he brought the ram of the ascending offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram, and it was slain. And Moshe sprinkled the blood on the slaughter place all around, and he cut the ram into pieces. And Moshe burned the head and in the pieces and the fat. And he washed the entrails and the legs in water. And Moshe burned the entire ram on the slaughter place. It was an ascending offering for a sweet fragrance, and an offering made by fire to Yahweh, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And he brought the second ram, the ram of ordination, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram, and it was slain. And Moshe took some of its blood, and put it on the tip of Aaron's ear, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And he brought near the sons of Aaron, and Moshe put some of the blood on the tips of their right ears, and on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the big toe of their right feet. And Moshe sprinkled the blood on the slaughter place all around. And he took the fat and the fat tail, and all the fat that was on the entrails, and the appendage on the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and their fat, and the right thigh. And from the basket of unleavened bread that was before Yahweh, he took 1 unleavened cake, and a cake of bread anointed with oil, and 1 thin cake, and put them on the fat and on the right thigh, and placed all these in the hands of Aaron and in the hands of his sons, and waved them as a wave offering before Yahweh. Moshe then took them from their hands, and burned them on the slaughter place on the ascending offering. They were ordinations for a sweet fragrance. It was an offering by fire to Yahweh. And Moshe took the breast and waved it, a wave offering before Yahweh. It was Moshe's portion of the ram of ordination, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And Moshe took some of the anointing oil and some of the blood which was on the slaughter place, and sprinkled it on Aaron, on his garments, and on his sons, and on the garments of his sons with him. And he set apart Aaron, his garments, and his sons, and the garments of his sons with him. And Moshe said to Aaron his son, and his sons, Cook the flesh at the door of the tent of appointment, and eat it there, with the bread that is in the basket of ordination, as I have commanded, saying, Aaron and his sons are to eat. Then burn the rest of the flesh and the bread with fire, and do not go outside the door of the tent of appointment for 7 days, until the days of your ordination are complete, for he fills your hands for 7 days. And the Maftir, Yahweh has commanded to do as he has done this day, to make atonement for you, and stay at the door of the tent of appointment day and night for 7 days, and you shall guard the duty of Yahweh and not die, for so I have been commanded. And Aaron and his sons did all that the word that Yahweh had commanded by the hand of Moshe.
Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah amet v'akaye olam nata betukenu. Baruch atah Yehovah
Noten HaTorah.
Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim,
King of the universe, who has given us the Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah.
He who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, may he bless Bill ben Avraham, for he has come up to read from the Torah in honor of Yehovah and his word. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, blessed is he, protect him and rescue him from every trouble and distress, from every plague and illness, and may he send blessing and prosperity in his every endeavor, together with all Israel, his brethren. Now let us respond.
Amen.
Vezu HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei B'nei Israel Al Pei Yehovah B'yad Moshe.
And this is the Torah that Moshe placed before the children of Israel, at the command of Yahweh through Moshe's hand. Return, O Yahweh, to the countless thousands of Israel. Amen.
You may be seated. I'd like to call Yochanan ben Levi to read from the Haftarah. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar b'nviim tovim eretzah v'nevrahim hane'amarim be'emet. Baruch atah Yehovah Haboker b'Torah u'v'Moshe Abdo u'Yisrael Amo u'v'Nvi'ei ha'emet v'Zedek. Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who has selected good prophets and was pleased with their words which were spoken truthfully. Blessed are you, Yehovah, who chooses the Torah, your servant Moshe, your people Israel, and the prophets of truth and righteousness.
We're reading today from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7, verse 21 through chapter 8, verse 3. Thus said Yehovah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, add your ascending offerings to your slaughterings and eat meat. For I did not speak to your fathers or command them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim about matters of ascending offerings or slaughterings. But this word I did command them, saying, obey my voice, and I shall be your Elohim, and you be my people, and walk in all the ways that I have commanded you, so that it be well with you. But they did not obey or incline their ear, but walked in the counsels in the stubbornness of their evil heart, and went backward, not forward. From the day that your fathers came out of the land of Mitzrayim until this day, I have even sent to you all my servants the prophets, daily rising up early and sending them. But they did not obey me or incline their ear, but stiffened their neck. They did evil more than their fathers. And you shall speak all these words to them, though they do not listen to you, and you shall also call to them, though they do not answer you. But you shall say to them, this is the nation that did not obey the voice of Yehovah their Elohim, nor did they accept instruction. Truth has perished, has been cut off from their mouth. Cut off your hair and throw it away, and take up a lamentation on the bare heights, for Yehovah has rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath. For the children of Yehuda have done what is evil in my eyes, declares Yehovah. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name, to defile it. And they have built the high places of Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and daughters in the fire, which I did not command, nor did it come into my heart. Therefore, see, the days are coming, declares Yehovah, when it shall no longer be called Topheth, or the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter, for they shall bury in Topheth until no room is left. And the corpses of the people shall be food for the birds of the earth, of the heavens, and for the beasts of the earth, with none to frighten them away. And the cities of Yehuda and in the streets of Jerusalem I shall make succeed the voice of rejoicing, and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, for the land shall become a waste. At that time, declares Yehovah, they shall bring the bones of the sovereigns of Yehuda, and the bones of the heads, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their burial sites. And I shall spread them before the sun and the moon and all the host of the heavens, which they have loved, and which they have served, and after which they have walked, which they have sought, and to which they have bowed themselves. They shall not be gathered nor buried. They shall be for dung on the face of the earth. And death shall be preferred to life by all the rest of those who remain of this evil people, who remain in all the places where I have driven them, declares Yehovah of hosts.
Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, zur kol ha'alamin, zedek b'kol ha'derot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'yoseh, ha'medabar u'kayam, shekol deborah, emet v'zedek, ne'eman, etahu Yehovah Eloheinu, b'nei amanim deborah, V'divarekat midvareka, akor le'yeshurekam, kiel melech ni'aman, rakaman atah, baruch atah Yehovah, ha'el ha'ne'aman, b'kol devorah. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, Rock of all eternity, faithful in all generations, who says and does, who speaks and makes it come to pass, all of whose words are true and righteous. Faithful are you, Yehovah our Elohim, and faithful are your words. For not one word of yours is turned back unfulfilled. For you are a faithful El and King. Blessed are you, Yehovah, the Elohim who is faithful in all his words. Amen. He who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Yochanan ben Levi, because he has come up to read from the Haftarah. As a reward for this, may the Holy One and the Father of our Messiah, blessed is he, protect him and rescue him from every illness, and may he send blessing and success in his every endeavor, together with all Israel, his brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. I'd like to call Nikki Bat Yehuda to read from the Brit Hadashah. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Mashiach Yehoshua, v'haketuvim shel hatalmudim. Baruch atah Yehovah, notein habrit haTorah. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the Messiah Yehoshua and the writings of the Talmudim. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the covenant of the Torah.
Just a second. Good gracious. There we go. Our reading is Hebrews 9:11 through 21. But Messiah, having become a high priest of the coming good matters through the greater and more perfect tent not made with hands, that is, not of this creation, entered into the most set-apart place once for all, not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood, having obtained everlasting redemption. For if the blood of bulls and goats and ashes of a heifer, sprinkling the defiled, sets apart for the cleansing of flesh, how much more shall the blood of the Messiah, who through the everlasting Spirit offered himself unblemished to Elohim, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim? And because of this, he is the mediator of a renewed covenant, so that death, having taken place for redemption of the transgressions under the first covenant, those who are called might receive the promise of the everlasting inheritance. For where a covenant is, it is necessary for the death of the covenant one to be established. For a covenant over those dead is firm, since it is never valid while the covenant one is living. Therefore, not even the first covenant was instituted without blood. For when, according to Torah, every command had been spoken by Moshe to all the people, he took the blood of calves and goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book itself and all the people, saying, "This is the blood of the covenant which Elohim commanded you." And in the same way he sprinkled with blood both the tent and all the vessels of the service. And according to the Torah, almost all is cleansed with blood, and without shedding of blood there is no forgiveness. It was necessary then that the copies of the heavenly ones should be cleansed with these, but the heavenly ones themselves with better slaughtering offerings than these. For Messiah has not entered into a set-apart place made by hand, figures of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of Elohim on our behalf, not that he should offer himself often, as the high priest enters into the set-apart place year by year with blood not his own. For if so, he would have had to suffer often, since the foundation of the world. But now he has appeared once for all at the end of the ages to put away sin by the offering of himself. And as it awaits men to die once, and after this the judgment, so also the Messiah, having been offered once to bear the sins of many, shall appear a second time, apart from sin, to those waiting for him unto deliverance. Amen.
Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu hadavar hamed, v'tayeh olam natan v'tikenu. Baruch atah Yehovah, asher natan lanu Mashiach Yehoshua, Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the word of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, who has given us the Messiah and the writings of the Talmudim. He who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, may he bless Nikki, Bat Yehuda, because she has come up to read from the second writings in honor of Messiah and his teachings. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, the Father of our Messiah, blessed is he, protect her and rescue her from every trouble and distress, from every plague and illness, and may he send blessing and success in her every endeavor, together with all Israel, her brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. And stand for the Etz Chaim He, please. Etz Chaim He, Lama Kazikim Ba, Beton Me'ameha, Ushar, Darakeha, Darkei Noam, Vekol Tivoteha, Shalom. Ashivanu Yehovah, Aleka Banashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu, Kadesh Yameinu Kekedem, is the tree of life to those who take hold of it, and those who support it are praiseworthy. Its ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Bring us back, Yehovah, to you, and we shall come, renew our days as of old. This concludes the Torah service. You may be seated.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So we're just going to I have some highlights and some notes. Going over the Torah, I don't need that. Going over the Torah portion. So we know this one is called Tsav, and what's it mean? Oh, you're yes, and that also means to delegate authority while retaining control. And if you remember, what was last week's Torah portion? Name of the book, Vayikra, and it means and he called. So last week people were called, this week people are commanded. It's interesting. That's one way to kind of tell what's going on with it. Because a lot of the offerings that are gone over, it looks like a repeat from last. I can't look at you people and this. I need bifocals. It looks like a repeat of what was talked about last week, but last week it is for the people bringing the offering, and then this week a lot of the details have to do with the Levites and what they are commanded to do. And also one way to think about it is that call is an open invitation for people who want to come and bring an offering, but once you've accepted that, now there is rules and instructions to follow. You can't just do it any way you want. It's how the Father wants it applied. So yeah, that's Tsav. Now they're commanded. And the first time that's used, it was Genesis 2:16, and Yahweh commanded the man, saying, "Eat of every tree of the garden." I always like to go back to first use when we have a word in Torah. But again, that's showing the authority that was given while the Father retains control, because with that disobedience, when they didn't follow it, there was penalties for the disobedience. And just to show, too, I have in here, Noah did it also. This is Noah, Genesis 6:22. Noah did according to all that Elohim commanded him. But also the meaning of the word isn't just for the Father. It's coming from that position of authority. Because Pharaoh, and I forgot to write down the verse of this, but Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had, and that was Abraham and Sarah. So the idea of it doesn't just apply to our Father. It comes from that position of authority. So this actually starts out, and this is spoken of. We're starting in 6:8 in Leviticus. If anybody wants to turn there, we got lots of scriptures to read. But it actually says this is the Torah of the ascending offering, and that's the Olah ascending. The idea is that it's an elevation, and it's a burnt offering, and it's a burnt offering that's completely consumed. And we're going to talk about Yeshua and what he did and how we can make comparisons. But we go over the burnt offering, the meal offering, the sin offering, the guilt offering, and then the peace or the thanksgiving offering. And then also the portion talks about eating it in a state of contamination, which there's a real interesting connection there kind of with the Passover meal. That really was a peace offering, and there has to be a state that you ate it in. The fat and the blood are not to be eaten, and then the parts that are to be burned and given to the priests, and then it ends with the consecration of Aaron and his sons for the service in the tabernacle. So we are to be holy and kadosh, holy, which is kadosh. And in 6:10, it says, "And the priest shall put on his linen garment and put his linen trousers on his body." I'm going to go ahead and back up, though. "And Yahovah spoke to Moshe, saying, Command Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the Torah of the ascending offering. This is the ascending, Olah, offering, because it is burned on the slaughter place all night until morning, and the fire of the slaughter place is kept burning." And then this is where it says, "And the priest shall put on his linen garment and put his linen trousers on his body, and shall take up the ashes of the ascending offering which the fire has consumed on the slaughter place, and shall put them beside the slaughter place." And the idea of what the priest is wearing kind of relates to some verses we have about robes we're to put on and how we acquire righteousness. So in Ephesians 5:27, "And in order to present himself a splendid assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any of this sort, but that it might be set apart and blameless." And this is about, again, our robes and what we are to put on. Revelation 7:13 talks about being dressed in white robes. In Revelations 19:8, "To her it was given," this is the bride of the Messiah, "to her it was given to be dressed in fine linen, clean and bright, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the set-apart ones." So it's just showing a comparison there of the attire and what we are to put on. And remember, we're called to be priests. And there's lessons to be learned by studying what they did and to every detail of how they did it, into how we are to, what it alludes or means to us, whether it's something that we actually apply or a picture that's coming. And the idea is that sin dirties us. That's the whole point. We want to come out of the world and avoid sin. And I have a couple of verses in Psalms 5. This is what sins does to us. It says, this is 5:5, "The boaster does not stand before your eyes." And then Proverbs 6 talks about the 6 matters that Yahovah hates, even the 7th one. And we know that sin leads to death. The Proverbs it's Proverbs 6:16 through 19. That's where it says the 6 matters. We can read it. Proverbs, I'm in Psalms. "These 6 matters Yahovah hates, and 7 are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, hands shedding innocent blood, a heart devising wicked schemes, feet quick to run to evil, a false witness breathing out lies, and one who causes strife among the brothers." And obviously there's a lot of ways to be disobedient, but these named here are really, you certainly don't want to find yourself in any of those categories. You don't want to shed innocent blood. You don't want to devise wicked schemes, but, there at the end, just to cause strife among brothers, he puts on the same level as those. He actually says he hates it. So these types of offerings, we can talk a little bit about the Olah offering. And again, it's the burnt offering, and it's to the elevation. And it actually speaks of it in Leviticus 1:3 through 17. Like I said, these are repeated from the last parsha to this parsha. So in Leviticus 1:3 through 17 are the descriptions of it, and in this parsha, it's 6:8 through 13. And this is a complete offering. The entire animal is consumed. This is a picture of Yeshua's complete and total submission for our sins when he died. And then also this burning is an example of the punishment that should lie for us if we don't actually repent. This is what sinners deserve. I have a couple of things here. Daphne, would you look up Romans 6:23? And Leslie, you want to look up Ezekiel 18:14? And I'm going to read Revelations 20:15. And if anyone who is not found in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. And then Daphne.
For the wages of sin is death, but the favorable gift of Elohim is everlasting life in Messiah Yehoshua our Master.
And Leslie?
Is it 18:14?
Just 4.
18:4.
Correct.
See,
Ezekiel.
all beings are mine. The being of the Father as well as the being of the Son is mine. That being, the being that is sinning shall die.
Yeah, so that's just, there is a penalty for death. So that's, the point of studying this and learning obedience. In that Olah offering, again, it's a complete offering. We are totally to give ourselves over when we want to submit. Submission is such a good word for learning how to be obedient to the Father. That pride that he talks about hating, it's a real struggle within ourselves to completely be obedient. But that's why Yeshua is our perfect example to be able to follow. The next offering is the Mincha offering, and it's called the meal offering, Mincha in Hebrew. This is the Torah of the grain offering. And again, I'll go. This is Leviticus 2:1 through 16. And then in this parsha, it's 6:14 through 23. And this is ground flour mixed with oil, salt, and frankincense. And what I heard talked about, which is interesting, all these other ones concern animals. They were supposed to be animals of the herd, so you weren't able to bring in a wild animal. The idea being that, think of the behavior of your soul, and you don't want something that's from the outside. This is something that's cared for and contained. Where did I leave off? For the Mincha?
Not bringing a wild animal. I missed that.
Well, just that's what's listed. You're supposed to bring an animal from the herd or from the flock. So by default, you're not allowed to bring something that you just find. It's something that...
And two, can I say this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could it not possibly be the fact that the wild animals are kind of Yehovah's? Because Yehovah cares for them, Yehovah feeds them, Yehovah waters them, Yehovah moves
Well,
them
and I think that's
from
what it
place to place.
alludes to. This is something you care for, you feed, you water.
Right.
It's in your care. It's going to cost you. It's not that something that you just go and catch. Where's the cost to your,
Right, because there's even a distinction on what we do with the blood of a wild animal versus the domestic stuff too. So it's even
That's a
more
real
of
good point.
conscientious divide right there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the idea that this meal offering, so here, if you didn't have herds or flocked, you're still not exempt from bringing an offering. This is called a meal offering because it's just flour mixed with oil, salt, and frankincense. So the idea that literally people who without a herds in that would be a lot less fortunate than those others, but even them, they can bring an offering, and it's something that's very dear to them. If you're very impoverished, but you still, what the Father wants for you is something that's still very important to you. It's a meal offering. If you're worried about your food and where it's going to come from, this is still acceptable to Him. It doesn't exclude anybody from their status. He kind of puts us all on equal levels. And also the way these are worded out, you can bring any of these, but somebody who could afford to bring an animal from the herd or the flock and just decided to bring a meal offering certainly exposes their heart. So I think there's a lot of levels here. We're not going to hide anything from the Father when we do this actions. And Yeshua talks about the widow's mite. I think that would apply to it. The idea that he says she gave more than anyone because of what she gave certainly seems to show her heart. Also, these are to contain no leaven, right? It is not baked with leaven. I have given it to them as their portion of my offerings made by fire. It is the most set apart, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. So there's a lot of details here about it, and I was just trying to go over some summary of it. But we know leaven. I got some notes. Let's read Matthew 16. And this would be 16, 1 through 12. And the Pharisees and Sadducees came, and trying him, asked that he would show them a sign from heaven. And he, answering, said to them, For when it is evening, you say fair weather, for the heaven is red. And in the morning, stormy weather today, for the heaven is red and overcast. You know how to discern the face of the heaven, but you are unable to discern the sign of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign shall be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and went away. And his taught ones came to the other side, and had forgotten to take bread. And Yehoshua said to them, Mind, and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, Because we brought no bread? But Yehoshua, aware of this, said to them, O you of little belief, why do you reason amongst yourselves because you brought no bread? Do you still not understand, neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000 and how many baskets you picked up, or the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many large baskets you picked up? How is it that you do not understand that I did not speak to you concerning bread, but to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees? Then they understood that he did not say to beware of the leaven of the bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So again, Yeshua, as our sacrifice, who was without leaven, he's showing these false teachings. This is what's considered being puffed up. That's the idea of leaven. It's something that puffs up. That's why it's not allowed on the altar. I also have Luke 12, 1 through 3. I don't have any of these marked, sorry, but we'll just kind of going over stuff. Meanwhile, 12, 1 through 3. Meanwhile, when an innumerable crowd of people had gathered together so that they trampled one another, he began to say to his taught ones, First, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. And whatever is concealed shall be revealed, and whatever is hidden shall be known. So whatever you have said in the dark shall be heard in the light, and what you have spoken in the ear and inner rooms shall be proclaimed on the housetops. So there he's even kind of explaining some of what that hypocrisy is. And 1 Corinthians 5:2. It's just the one line. And you have been puffed up and did not rather mourn, so that he who has done this deed be removed from among you. Again, just showing the puffed up. So I kind of said it. This unleavened bread represents or is represented by Yeshua in the way he lived. Matthew 26:26 says, As they were eating, Yehoshua took the bread, and having blessed, broke and gave it to the taught ones, and said, Take, eat, this is my body. So right there, he's actually saying his body is the bread. And if you ever paid attention to that line, having blessed, broke, and gave it to the taught ones, I mean, ideally, that's unleavened bread there. It's really hard to break puffed up bread. So he is a representation of bread without leaven. He was our perfect example of humility, love, and sincerity, and he was free from leaven. In 6:21. Okay, and then the way to make this offering, the grain offering, the meal offering, it is made on a griddle with oil. Bring it in mixed. Bring the baked portions of the grain offering near, a sweet fragrance to Yahovah. And I have a couple of references there of Psalm 141:2. I've cried out to you, O Yahovah. Hasten to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry out to you. Let my prayer be prepared before you as incense, to the lifting up of my hands as the evening offering. I think I have that one later again. I named that one twice. Then I was going to talk about the Shalamine. And if you think of shalom, it's the peace offering. And this is Leviticus, first talked about Leviticus 3, 1 through 7, and then this is described in 7, 1 through 36. And if you look when it talks about it, and this is the Torah of the slaughtering of the peace offerings, which is brought to Yahovah. If he brings it for thanksgiving, that's Todah. That's why it's also called a thanksgiving offering. It's kind of interchangeable. But this is not because of sin, but used to express thanks and to seek friendship or communion with Elohim. In the way this one is consumed, the person that brings it is able to eat of it, the priest is able to eat of it, and it's shared with Elohim. So that idea of all three people partaking of this offering is showing that communion. And this is also called the peace offering. And this, as it's described in Leviticus here, it comes after what is the katat, the sin offering, and the asham, the guilt offering. And I've written down, there can be no peace between man and his creator until sin is paid for. So Yeshua, who was our sacrifice, is somebody we are supposed to identify with. And in Romans 6, or do you not know that as many, this is starting in 3, that as many of us as we were immersed into Messiah Yehoshua were immersed into his death? Were we therefore buried with him through immersion into death, that as Messiah was raised from the dead by the esteem of the Father, so also we should walk in newness of life? For if we have come to be grown together in the likeness of its death, we shall also be of the resurrection. Knowing this, that old man was impaled with him, so that the body of sin might be rendered powerless to serve sin no longer. And this is alluding to the idea of the peace offering. He is our peace, and I have that in Ephesians 2. Would be Ephesians 2:14. I think actually I'm starting a little earlier at 11. Therefore remember that you, once nations in the flesh, who were called the uncircumcision by what is called the circumcision made in the flesh by hands, that at the time you were without Messiah, excluded from the citizenship of Israel, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no expectation and without Elohim in the word. But now in Messiah Yehoshua, you who were once far off have been brought near by the blood of the Messiah. For he is our peace, who has made both one, and having been broken down the partition of the barrier. And that comes from, back in Isaiah 9:6. And Isaiah 9:6 says, For a child is born unto us, a son is given unto us, and the rule is on his shoulder, and his name is called Wonder, Counselor, Strong El, Father of Continuity, Prince of Peace. That's just a real nice way to tie all that together. The sin offering, which is katat, is spoken of in Leviticus 4, 1 through 35, and here it's 6, 24 through 30. Part of the rules of it says the priest making atonement has to eat of it. It's on the wrong page. The priest who is making atonement eats it in the set apart places eaten in the courtyard of the tent of appointment. So again, this sin offering, this is spelling out part of the priestly behavior and what they were commanded to do. And they had to make sacrifices for themselves to make sure they were guilt-free also. But this also applies to us because we all need forgiveness. And I have 1 John 8 through 10. Again, I write to you a fresh command, which is true in him and in you, because the darkness is passing away and true light now shines. The one who says he is in the light and hates his brother is in the darkness until now. The one who loves his brother stays in the light, and there is no stumbling block in him. That's not. Yeah, 1 John, I guess I jumped. That was 8, 9, and 10. But that's, okay, what was the... Well, the idea that we have to stay in the light of the Messiah. But we know what sin is, 1 John 3, 4. And everyone having this expectation... I think it was 1 John 3. Everyone doing sin also does lawlessness. Sin is lawlessness. I'm sorry, I'm thrown off by that last one. I left out what chapter that was because that doesn't seem to fit what I was talking about in my head earlier. Oh, I went to 2. So 1, let's try that again. If we say we have no sin, we are misleading ourselves, and the truth is not in us. This is 1 John 1, 8 through 10. If we confess our sins, he is trustworthy and righteous to forgive us the sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us. And then that's where I went to, what is sin? Sin is lawlessness. And disobedience to Elohim starts with not loving Yehovah with all our heart, mind, and strength, not loving our neighbor of ourselves, and we are all guilty of that. Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fall short of the esteem of Elohim. And have we really repented and asked Yeshua into our hearts and to forgive our transgressions? I mean, we talk about it a lot, but with these offerings and how often they're done, I mean, remember there was daily sacrifices along with these just being offerings that were allowing us to come and commune with our Father and be closer to him. And really, this is him spelling out how his heart, like for a way for us to get to know his heart. A lot of this stuff seems confusing, and there's so much more to study out about it. But the idea of what's being offered him and that we can even approach him, and this is a way he finds acceptable for us to approach him. I think it's well worth it to look at all the details of this and really try to figure out and understand what's going on. Because we don't want to trespass, and that trespass is the guilt offering. So even if it's unintentional, it's considered a trespass. And this is something that happens, you can trespass Elohim or you can trespass your neighbor. So it's not something direct about you, but this is about the act and something that happened. And the difference between this guilt offering and the sin offering, the guilt offering, you're required to make repayment, and you're supposed to add 1/5 to it. The sin offering, there was just an offering to bring, but there was no money exchanged. Yeah, Dennis?
As we're reading this, just kind of dawned on me that, we're talking about sin and making sure that we've repented and, we love Yeshua, that through this, the offerings, the way they're set up, you have your sin offering, you make atonement, you have your guilt offering, you make atonement. Now you're basically sin-free and guilt, you're not guilty anymore. And then yet you can go and bring and eat with the Father on the very next
Absolutely,
day, and
yeah.
actually sit with him is amazing.
Right.
You can have peace with the Father. So, like you're saying, it's very, it can be studied out a lot more, but yet that's how we're supposed to approach him.
Right, yeah, it's not just a covering. It's a relationship. And this is, and I've heard it talked about, it's like a table fellowship. Like literally when you sit down and break bread with someone, you are enjoying a meal together, you are communicating, there's a real deeper level with this stuff. remember these offerings, that word is korban. So that's the way to draw close. When you want to draw close to the Father, this is, again, last week it was called Vayikra, we were called, and this is Tsav, the command. Once you accept the idea of coming forward to apply that call to yourself, now there's these guidelines. But it's still, like you said, it's such a wonderful way to even draw closer. Because that peace offerings, that's also the one you bring meat, and it's mixed with the meal offering. Yeah. Which seems that that's where the reference back to, I'm sorry, what was that, Julie?
Dennis refers to it as a sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, this is, God likes eating sandwiches.
I think,
bread.
yes. On matzah, right?
Well, this one you can put leaven in it.
The peace
The
offering.
peace offering, you can actually add leaven and actually.
And unleavened thin cakes, anointed with
If
oil.
you read down at 13, it says, with cakes of leavened bread, he is to present his offering together with the sacrifice of his peace offerings for giving thanks. So you can actually have.
This is where I need to study more, because
You can actually have leavened bread with your peace offering.
I would like to study that out, because in line 12 it talks about but it's actually calling it the slaughterings of the Thanksgiving unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened thin cakes anointed with oil. And then besides these cakes, he brings as his offering leavened bread. So I wonder if it has to include it sounds like it has to include both. I don't know if that leaven would be acceptable if you didn't have the.
Exactly. You have to
Yeah.
have it first before you get to the
Then you get the crackers, then the sandwich.
There you go.
Okay. Sounds good. This is with the restitution that's in offering, didn't offer that. Okay, then I just wanted to touch on, so these are the offerings. I mean, and it is taking a lot, and it's hard because we are so unfamiliar with these practices, and we just assume Yeshua did this for me. We don't want to sound like what we came out of. When he did it for me, I don't have to. I think the idea that he did it for me is we need to learn how he did it for me and why it applies to me. Each one of these is a specific reason why you bring these. So if you've done something in your life and you're aware of it, this is exactly how you would get forgiveness and draw closer. Like I said, I think it's well worth studying out. Going back to, I'm going to jump back all the way to Exodus 29. This is 38 through 46. But the idea, remember, there was daily offerings. So along with these, the priests are required to do daily offerings. And this is what you prepare on the slaughter place: 2 lambs a year old, daily, continually. And that word continually is tamid. And I think you might have heard of tamid offerings. Prepare the 1 lamb in the morning, and the other lamb you prepare between the evenings. And then there's details about it. I don't want to go through everything. Prepare it with the grain offering, with the drink offering, which I didn't talk about, but there is a drink offering. As in the morning for a sweet fragrance offering made by fire, the continual ascending offering, that is the Olah offering. For your generations at the door of the tent of appointment before Yehovah, where I shall meet and speak with you, and it does say forever. I kind of answered, so I just had questions on. So if we find out that these were offered in the morning and between the evenings, so these are twice a day, and this is what he appointed continually, daily, continually. That's that tamid. It doesn't say it went away. I mean, I know we don't have the temple now, and they're not doing these, but remember, the idea is that our body is the temple. Yes. Oh, okay. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Again, you can just say it's over and done with and doesn't apply, or there's something you're not understanding, because our Father is relevant in all times, in all situations. And that was the animal that was brought was a lamb, and it actually reads olat tamid, which is plural, and it's continual. And the burnt offering is the olah. And this offering was a sweet fragrance. And that is, and prepare the other lamb between the evenings, and with it prepare the grain offering and the drink offering, as in the morning, for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire, to Yahovah. And I actually have down Numbers 28:6 also for that. I know it's a lot, but the idea of 2 to 3 witnesses, and I try to not just say something without being able to back it up. So 28:6 in Numbers says, a continual ascending offering which was offered at Mount Sinai for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahovah. In this, I kind of want to pull out the fragrance part of it. Why would Elohim want a nonstop offering to him? I mean, he is the creator, and to show appreciation, to show we want to draw close to him. I mean, the idea of how these offerings were set up was this process for us being able to draw close. And the spiritual lesson is it's an act of worship. Joshua 22:27. El Elohim Yahovah, El Elohim Yahovah. 22:27. Okay, that makes more sense. But to be a witness between you and us and our generations after us, to do the service of Yahovah before him with our ascending offerings, with our slaughter offerings, with our peace offerings, that your sons should not say to our sons in time to come, you have no portion with Yahovah. So this is something he prescribed. It's actually a moed. There's a time he offered to do this, in the morning and in the evenings. These are his appointed times. And even though, like I was saying, we don't have the temple, we have our bodies as a temple, and we can offer this praise to him. So spiritually, when we're in worship, we're offering this praise. That, I think I have that one down. That's Hosea.
Praying in the morning and opening your day and ending your day in prayer.
Exactly. Take it over, Daphne. That's kind of what I went to. I went and pulled out some verses that show just it's not an animal sacrifice now, but you can make these sacrifices. And we read that other one about in Psalm 141, verse 2, the praise of my lips and the esteem or the raising of my hands be as the evening sacrifice. This is 2 Chronicles 8:13 through 14. (8, 13 through 14). So, even as the duty of every day required, offering according to the command of Moshe for the Sabbaths and for the new moons and for the appointed times, 3 times a year, the festival of Matzot and the festival of Shavuot and the festival of Sukkot. And according to the ruling of David, his father, he appointed the divisions of the priests for their service, the Levites for their duties, to praise and serve before the priests as the duty of each day required, and the gatekeepers by their divisions at each gate, so it was the command of David, the man of Elohim. That is why these people were appointed, to make sure these daily offerings continued. So, yeah, I guess the question is, so how do we worship? And we're starting to touch on it. Psalm 113, from the rising of the sun to its going down, to praise Yah, praise the name of Yahovah. Where else can we find the picture of sacrifice without the killing of the animal? And I already read Psalm 141, verse 2. Romans 12. I call upon you, therefore, brothers, through the compassion of Elohim, to present your bodies as a living offering, set apart, well-pleasing to Elohim, your reasonable worship. And then Hosea was the bowls of our lips that Daphne mentioned. And then just as the smoke was a pleasing aroma to our Father, I have some verses out of Revelations, verse 5, 8 through 10. And when he took the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls filled with incense, which are the prayers of the set-apart ones. And they sang a new song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain and have redeemed us to Elohim by your blood out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation, and made us sovereigns and priests to our Elohim, and we shall reign upon the earth." So again, remember that higher calling of being a priest is restated over and over. Scarlett, do you want to say something?
I realized in Eucanagon from 8 to 10, it says, "He will not let the light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which unless light, every man coming into the world, he was in the world, and the world came to be through him, and the word did not know him."
That's a good one. Thank you. Yes, that's our whole goal, is Yeshua, our Messiah. In Revelations 8, 3 through 4, "And another messenger came and stood at the slaughter place, holding a golden censer, and much incense was given to him, that he should offer it up with the prayers of all the set-apart ones upon the golden slaughter place which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the set-apart ones went up before Elohim from the hand of the messenger." And the last one I got there is Psalm 69. 30 and 31. "I praise the name of Elohim with a song, and I make him great with thanksgiving. And this pleases Yahovah more than an ox, a bull with horns and hooves." So there again, it's the obedience that he desires, not the slaughterings. Psalm 69, 30 and 31. And then back to the Brit Hadashah in Hebrews 13. This is Hebrews 13, 15, and 16. "Through him, then, let us continually offer up a slaughter offerings of praise to Elohim, that is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name." So again, we can do this continually, just like the morning and evening sacrifices. "In the morning, we start our day seeking his guidance and wisdom by prayer and study. In the evening, we count our blessings and thank him for the day he has helped us through. Before you sleep, ask Yahovah to watch over you and your loved ones and put your lives in his safekeeping." And I have just a few more verses. Psalms 4, 8, and 9. "I lie down in peace together and sleep. For you alone, O Yahovah, make me dwell in safety." And in Daniel, and these are our examples now, Daniel 9, where am I at? Daniel 6. Let me get there and I'll read it. This is Daniel 6, verses 10 and 13. This page, okay. "And Daniel, when he knew that the writing was signed, went home in his upper room with his windows open toward Jerusalem. He knelt down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his Elah, as he had done before." So Daniel prayed 3 times a day. In Psalm 119, verse 164. This is Daniel. No, I'm sorry, David. 119 verse 164. I have prayed you 7 times a day because of your righteous right rulings. Great peace have those loving your Torah, and for them there is no stumbling block. So David prays 7 times a day. And then the idea is just using those as our examples. How many times a day do we do this? You know, if we just really connect and remember the morning sacrifices and the evening sacrifices, it's a way to stay connected with what our Father prescribed in the behavior He wanted His priestly service to be done. And again, that's our highest calling, to be a nation of priests, so we can be a light to others. So it's real important. There's so much in here, and that was really just kind of a light skim over it. But I hope you guys dig in. I don't know what's, next week. I mean, Leviticus, it's been taught that in the Hebrew culture, Jewish, the children actually learn Leviticus first, which I think is a real interesting message. I think it's the one as adults we kind of, there's chapters we know we kind of glaze over, but as a book, it's probably Leviticus that we kind of shut our brain off to as we read. And there's really, I think, a lot more important stuff in there that we could understand. So with that, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, everybody. Anybody got any simple questions?
I just had something I noticed
Okay.
from the sandwich.
Analogy.
Oh, it's not a great analogy.
Well, it's that him saying that, and what you said afterwards about how, and you looked it back up and you saw how, yes, it's leavened, but you have to also have the unleavened with it first, and all the others are unleavened. It really goes with the second part of today's Haftarah, which we didn't read out loud here, but the Yirmiyahu 9:24, when you talk about leaven being about being puffed up, because it says, "But let him who boasts boast of this, that he understands and knows me, that I am Yahweh, doing loving commitment, right ruling, and righteousness in the earth. For indeed thy delight, declares Yahweh." And so, putting it in that perspective, you have to have the unleavened first.
That's a really cool
Isn't that
connection.
cool?
Yeah, that's really nice. Thank you. Yeah, this is awesome. Like you said, this makes me want to go back to this week's parsha next week, because I feel like I'm just scratching the surface on it. But that's why we do these in cycles.
I just wanted to comment and say it was so good to hear how you connected the Messiah with the different parts of the sacrifice, and that really just brings everything even more together, even just with the linen and what that meant, and us at the very end,
Yeah,
so.
it's amazing, this
Yeah.
tapestry, how interwoven it is, and that's, I think, why we miss Rabbi so much. I mean, that man just knows it and can relate it, and it's unfortunate because it's spoon-fed to us when he's standing up here teaching, and right now we're being required to study this out ourselves. So to find those connections, I mean, that's part of, I don't feel qualified to be up here because there's so much to learn, but if I can do anything and just, if we can learn together and study these, and thank you for your comments because they are really helpful. I mean, that sandwich, that's great. But all that, I mean, I think all of us, anybody who studies and does something can contribute. That's the whole idea of why we're in this Torah cycle. So we only have a few chapters to study next week. Everybody dig in and just come with one question that you have an answer to also, and that would contribute to the discussion. We'll call it that, a discussion. So I'm certainly not up here telling people what to think. We're just trying to go through the Parsha. Thank you. Yeah, thank the Father and His Son. You want to join us in the repetition of the Shema? Shema Yisrael, Yehovah, Eloheinu, Yehovah, Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkuto, Leolam,
Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh is one. Blessed is the name of His glorious kingdom for all eternity.
Anybody volunteer to do the bread and the wine? Cody and okay. Mr. Bill's gonna help too.
Agafen, Omein. Blessed are you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem haaretz, Omein. Blessed are you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
And taking
Bread, and giving thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.
I have set watchmen on your walls, O Jerusalem, all the day and all the night, continually, who are not silent. You who remember Yehovah, give yourselves no rest, and give him no rest till he establishes, until he makes Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Yehovah, we have so many things going on in our state and in our country and honestly in this world right now, Father. And as we've touched in stuff through Jeremiah and all that, I could not help but continue reading. And anytime you read Isaiah and Jeremiah, the atrocities and the things the prophets spoke out against, we could be reading our headlines today, Father. And we just hope that the way that we live our lives and the way that we carry ourselves and something, somehow, somewhere, something that we do or say or involved in can possibly help somebody else that comes across us to stop and pause and look and evaluate their lives, and somehow that we can help those around us before we start seeing where it says in that day. Father, please help us to be at the right place at the right time with the right heart and the right words to, in a way, be a transmitter of your word through our actions, that we can help those people that need to stop and think and repent and turn away and evaluate themselves according to the word, not according to the words that they have been told is right. Help them find the true right. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen. Please stand for the Aaronic benediction. Father, you spoke to Moshe saying how to bless the children of Israel. Today we do not have the presence of Aaron and his sons. So in their absence, we as a congregation will read in English and sing in Hebrew how to bless the children of Israel by saying to them,
Yahweh bless you and guard you. Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus shall you put my name on the children of Israel, and I myself shall bless them.
So we are going to get a recording of this, the singing, because Devin's sister does a wonderful job, and I think if we record that and play that, then we will learn how to do it like her. But we can all try. It's just nobody knows the cant at this, or so we'll just
Different ones.
yeah.
Yehovah, Vayishmareka.